Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. My buddy Rhett. It is Monday morning, February 16th, 2026. It is 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside. It feels so much warmer than yesterday, and yesterday was 50 degrees warmer Fahrenheit outside. So there's definitely a pretty big difference between how your body perceives temperature and how the thermometer perceives temperature. Oh, the mysteries of life, the mysteries of life. So yesterday we ran into an issue and actually completely created a whole new bug, fixed the whole bug, and merged it back into this project because this effort, this story, this issue, and this and the thing was what was happening was we created a here we go, reload. We created this sort of concept, right? Like it was just like this layer that describes how we perceive the world, right? So if I hit this, and then we have like sort of this log of everything that we perceived. And see this JSON, what was happening was this whole JSON thing was failing. And the reason it was failing was because there was a reference. So whenever JSON tried to stringify it as it was kind of crawling through the structure, it ran across something that has a reference back up into one of its ancestors, I guess it's called. But basically, a parent or a great parent, grandparent or a great grandparent, something had a reference to something above it, and so that causes like this circular dependency, and JSON stringify can't stringify that. So once I kind of looked at that, it was like, oh, I think this is sort of like my instincts is like, okay, so there's like a larger problem here, and the larger problem was is that basically I had not cobbled out an area for the Viz component, the ST version, my view of the world, of my perception of it for Viz component. Now, would I ever need a perception? Absolutely. I'm definitely going to need my perception of the world because I'm going to have visualizations. One of the things I would hope if we ever get to where I have imagined, I would love to have a visualization, but underneath it, some DOM elements, like titles and stuff like that. And so you see the visualization up here and then some text down here. Well, if I'm going to do that, that means I'm going to have to be able to specify the height and the width of the component. And so I had like the ST visualization, which is what describes the entire um, holding component, the component that holds the Viz component. See, so I just had completely missed it. Now, that was so easy to fix because this was the moment. Before this moment, it was been hard to fix because you kind of have to guess what the problem's going to be. You have to imagine it, and that can be difficult. It's not that difficult now that we have it laid out, but at the time, it was very, very difficult to visualize it. In the future, it would have been very difficult to implement this because I would start building stuff around using it as is. And then as I started to build dependencies around using it as is, then we would have problems. And we might even have, well, actually, I don't think we have that problem because we were able to run end-to-end tests and they all passed. So, but like if you look at the ST visualization, so this view is just like sort of not the best view for understanding the overall structure, but it is the best view for understanding individual pieces. But if we look at ST visualization, that is the very, very top piece from a browser perspective. If we look at uh, from a ThreeJS perspective, a renderer is the very, very top piece. But like a visualization, this guy, an ST visualization, actually has a renderer in it. See, it has a reference to a renderer ID. This is the renderer that's tied to this. So this is a higher level, but it also has a Viz component too. And so, and we've made the decision there that and I could tell that I made this decision not purposely, but the decision was made that you can only have one component per visualization. It didn't have to be that way. It could be an array of components. Maybe in the future we'll even decide to go that direction, but for now you can only have one component per visualization. That's just the rule. You can only have one renderer per visualization. So if you know, and that's just the way it is now. I don't know if a component. So if we go see, like, it to me, a viz component would only have one visualization, one renderer as well. I mean, yeah, would only have one renderer. In the future, if we were like, oh, I want one visualization to have two renderers, well, does that mean we will have two components, or do we have one component that has two renderers? Those sorts of decisions have to be made, but at least we can talk through them now because we have this viz component layer, right? And we have all of this. So, but this is our description of the world, and we had a big gap at viz component. We didn't have a description, and it's because we don't have anything we want to describe yet. But like, see how this one we have an st height and an st width. So like right now we have 200 by 200, and then we just assume that the viz component is going to have the same height and width. But let's say we wanted the height of this to be 300, the width to be 200, and then on the bottom 100 we want like some sort of uh, element, HTML element. Then that's we would have to this is where we would say what the width and height of the viz. If the viz component's ever going to be a different width and height than the outside holding um, component or the visualization itself, then this is where we would hold that information. But we didn't have a place to hold that information before. And it's just like one of those things. It's like I just missed it. It's easy to do, and who knows what else we've missed. But that's just sort of the nature of software development. And I don't think people realize that. I think people think that software development is a lot more like precision and a lot less artsy, a lot more like known processes to step through, and a lot less like gut feelings and experience and stuff like that. Um, it's just one of those things where it's just like you can't get everything into writing. Um, and until we can get everything in writing, and I guess that's kind of what I was trying to do here, is I'm trying to make this getting to writing. Um, like our writing doesn't have, it did used to, but it doesn't have like sort of oh, and then this is a reference back to this, and then and then you go ahead and go up there. Like the way we have it is like, no, if I can't print it out, and if it's going to put me in an infinite loop, then I can't do it. That's just, I guess, one of the foundations of JavaScript, I guess. But anyway, so we're moving along, and what we want to do, and I'd realize this, if I type in entities and this, what happens is everything gets reloaded. So that's why we are losing um, our stuff. But if I hit now, if I add one, I can add one. And I can even add a second one, even though it doesn't update on the screen. But if I come up here, I can do this, and then I can hit the back button, and the browser seems to realize that I want to stay in this context. I'm not looking to reload all the memory. Um, but anyway, so what's happening, this isn't updating. We had a fix for this, but that was like to blow away the whole old um, one and have a new one. So we've been sort of trying to work through, okay, how do we do that? And I just came across the idea of using uh, uh, getting a component app routes, app data layout. I think there's a service that we're kind of working through. Services, entities, ST, is this the one? Publish. Using a hash, right? So I'm going to set up a hash, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized, my gosh, hashes are very expensive. Very, very expensive. So then it was just like, okay, so do I want to do that? And then it was just like, man, like if I'm why would I spend all the resources to build up a hash, or why not just update the DOM? Because hashing is so expensive anyways. And then I just basically kind of walk through my current mental model. I don't know if this is 100% true. Probably, I think it is true though. Right now, is that like, let's say if like I'm just trying to mentally picture what's going on. If I were to take, like, let's say I was to take a number and multiply it by two, then let's say that is a one level one effort is to do that. And then like if I want to do a hash, I think that it's probably like a level 1000 effort. Like it's 1000 times more would be my gut feeling. It's 1000 times more um, CPU intensive than just doing a multiplication. But if you want to do a DOM, it's very open ended, but it's probably at the very least like a million times more than multiplying. So yes, doing a hash is way, way better than actually updating the DOM. Doing a hash to determine if there's a change than actually just like wiping everything else and updating the DOM with the exact same stuff. Um, so it's just like one of those things where it's like we want to but it would be better to come up with a better way. And it did suggest like a concept of fingerprinting, and the fingerprint that it suggested would be to take the length of the objects and then um, also the first 20 characters and the last 20 characters, and then compare that. So you have a string, and that string has the length and then the first and last 20. And then I realized that for this specific implementation, that is going to have so many false negatives because we're probably constantly going to be just like changing like the width of something. I'm going to change that from 3 to 4. That's not going to change the character count, and it's probably going to be towards the middle, and it's going to be the same character count. So like that's not going to work. But anyways, we did kick that can down and create a new issue for that. So it's 851. So now what I'm trying to do is I have a publish service, and I was thinking visualization IDs and then our visualization hash. So we have this visualization hash signal. So what I'm going to do at this point is, now that I have my hash, see, one thing that made me realize that hashing is really expensive is that you can't just say, give me the hash. You have to say, here's a promise. Can you go ahead and go give me the hash? And then it's figuring out if you have like uh, a GPU and other stuff, or how it's going to do it. And the dependency, like it would probably be a lot fast. It's probably a lot faster if you have a GPU. I think. I don't know that, but that's my gut. Is that, and like the percentage of when a developer is developing is their gut instinct versus their actual knowing what to do next. That is difficult to know. I would have thought early on that before I started making videos and doing all this sort of thing, I would have thought that that was like a super rare thing. But now I don't think I believe that anymore. I think that 90%, 95, 99% of software development is actually a gifted, experienced developer operating on his gut, not not like people knowing exactly what to do. Um, Maybe we'll get there one day, but right now we're nowhere near that, as far as I could tell. So, anyways, so I have a this, and I think it's called set. What is this thing called? Visualization ID hash. I should have muted that. Just changed the way. When I went to mute it, I actually turned it all the way down before I muted it. Those are the things you learn. Visualization IDs hash dot set, And then, so now this is just a string. So it should not hash. It should not be a big deal to tell the difference now. If it's the same string, it won't fire, but if it's a different string, it will. F12. And then let me hit add. Then add a viz. All right, so we have a new hash. You see the first one was DC, this one's 1ED. It's kind of interesting because the hashes stay the same, which wouldn't make sense. But because I remember that DC and ending with 99 last time. All right, so now do I have an effect on that? I don't remember if I'd gotten that far. So we're going to go to our actual component. Okay, so we have no effect on the, let's see. So I'm just going to say const hash equals this dot st publisher service dot visualization IDs. And so I don't know where this hash doesn't do anything. I don't know if it'll. Oh, see, now it's working, and that's because, and I didn't know for sure if that was going to work, but that's because this effect gets fired, and then it goes and gets this data, even though, like, without this, it won't work, right? So if I do the exact same thing and I comment this out, the first one will work because it sees that there's a difference, but the second one won't because it thinks, because the actual visualization ID's reference object didn't change. But this is a string, so the string knows how to tell if something changed or not. So, because if the actual text of the string changes, it will actually change the reference. It won't change it in place. And see, now we can add these things and they show up all the time. And I think that that was like honestly, as like if I was just like, oh, I'm making tutorials. That's a 2-minute tutorial. But in real life, I had to go re-architect, make all kinds of changes and all that. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.